Hi, hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Monster Madness. You're about to listen to a wonderful conversation between Matt and one of my favorite people, Jackie. This episode was recorded way back in March, if memory serves me correctly, and it unfortunately fell to the wayside thanks to busyness and packed schedules amongst Matt and myself. So if there is some dated information within the episode, that's why. This will also be our last episode of the year. I know that in 2023, we've been pretty quiet on the podcasting front. All of that will be explained in January when Humor Horror finally makes its way to the airwaves. Matt and I are super excited for you to hear those episodes and for you to come along the journey with us. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Anyways, how are you, Jackie?
Tired.
The the infamous Jack that you hear so much about on Monster Madness, the actual voice of the intro too. Well, you
Oh my
get
God.
shout outs quite often. I was impressed with your intro. I think I even thanked you on the show.
You did. Thank you
Yeah,
for thanking
around
me.
getting made fun of for talking about ravioli, but that's just kind of how my life is. So it's a fucking big deal.
Do you know, I still look at that review. I don't even I wasn't even I'm like this fucking person.
So not that long ago, I went to see if we had new reviews, and I read that one, and it just made me angry again. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I, yeah, I don't know why that shit bothers me. I'm used to having things said about me. I mean, I was called a fat hipster on Podcast of Terror, so that was a good one. Yeah,
I mean, was that because you're friends with them or because they're being douchebags?
douchebag. So we did D.
Mm,
Snyder's Strangeland, which is hands down one of my favorite movies due to the nostalgia,
okay.
and the soundtrack is peak early thousands new metal, like
Mm,
fucking banger after banger. And we had tagged D. Snyder on Twitter
yeah.
about the episode, and it was one of his fans who was like, if you guys had half the fucking talent he does, there's a bunch of fat hipsters in their bedrooms. And then we were both like, hey, like we actually like I raved about the movie. I talked about how great it was and how like excited I was that there was a prospect of a second. And I was like, I told Corey, I'm like, fuck it, we'll block her. And he goes, just hang on. And like by the end of it, he had her agree to come on the show, and she just no showed us. But I was just like what a fucking random turn of events. And I remember
Yeah.
this happened right before I went to Ohio. So I used to go to Ohio once a year for the Arnold Schwarzenegger Sports Classic with some friends. So it's a 7-hour drive. So we always 7 hours of fuckery. And like, I think 10 minutes after bringing this up, one of my buddies found like half naked pictures of this girl on the internet. And we're like, well, this is what we're dealing with. So it's like, are we really going to be that offended that this girl calls you a fat hipster when her life is not going well?
Yeah.
But, and this was before OnlyFans. Everyone had an OnlyFans. So it was just poor decisions that this girl made.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who among us? But
Right. Right.
but if you're yeah, I don't know. I make a point to not talk that much shit on my podcasts because it's like, do I want to invite that? I don't know.
Well, and that's a really good point. There was a time where I thought less about what was being said and just said it. And then obviously over the years as audiences grow and things
Right.
change, it's like now there's a little more of it. Like I was a little
Mm,
more lackadaisical about having my real name out there. And granted, it's out there in a number of ways, so it's not a big deal, but there are now ways that it can like I try to separate one from the other.
I get that.
It's like my Facebook is personal. I only try to keep it that, and I only have it because I have to manage band pages. Whereas my Instagram is like, fuck it, whatever, it's wide open. Here's a picture of my butthole. But yeah, and so it's like back then I just didn't really care. I was like, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah.
But as the availability of information and how you can get in touch with people changes, a lot of that changes as well. And apparently, you can't give out recipes on podcasts anymore. People just don't want any part of it.
Unless it's a cooking show.
I tried to start one of those and then it never really took off.
Oh, well, I've never actually even heard of a cooking show podcast. It sounds just weird enough to be interesting.
Yeah, the idea, and it's not really dead. It's just we didn't really do anything with it, but it was Kane, Count Canula, the streamer.
Oh
Him and
yeah,
I
yeah,
had an
yeah.
idea where we were going to do food. So it was like we were going to do comfort food, like what did our parents make us when we were kids, and then like try to ramp it up.
Oh.
So we had done a test episode, and it was I can't fucking remember what it was called, but it was just like a pile of hot. I think it was like a hot mess. I think is what it was called because he's from Cincinnati, so it's like it's a hot mess. So I was like, fucking chip beef and like sauce
Ooh.
on toast and shit, and it was just like the richest pile of great that ends up being a bad time when it hits your stomach.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so it was shit like that, and we were gonna do like burgers and pizza stuff like that. And it was just called Kane and Matt Save the World, and we were gonna just never ever talk about saving the world. We were only gonna talk about food or like random topics and shit. So it's still a possibility. I just know that he's been busy being a tattoo artist and stuff. So
Mm.
yeah, and unfortunately, as we all got re busy after the pandemic, I don't want to say after the pandemic, it's still very much a thing that people just act like went away. But
Yeah.
when things opened up more and we just got busy back with reality and streaming kind of slowed down, which is a nice segue into you had quite the following while streaming. Are you planning on getting back into it at all?
That was a smooth transition. That was a smooth
Don't call me the smooth
transition.
operator for nothing.
The rest of the podcast, SP, or SO rather.
Yep, yep, yep.
First of all, one, I support this food podcast, so if
Thank
Kane
you.
has the time and so do you, please do it and send it my way.
Absolutely.
Second, yes, I really do miss streaming. I think the problem was I had quit my job a year ago in April, almost in like a week from now. It'll be a year since I quit that job. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go headfirst into this, just have a good fucking time, 4 or 5 days a week, 3, 4 hours. Just what else am I doing? My kids at school, whatever. And then it was like fun. It was a lot of fun. And I have a small following. It's like 160 people. It's not like I'm a nobody in the grand scheme. But it was just fun and a lot of close people and I met really awesome people, but then it was like this is becoming a job and it's only like a job that pays like 80 cents a day. So it wasn't financially possible to keep that going and not work during those times. So then, fucking mental illness and depression and everything else because it's like how do you rectify what you want to do versus what pays the fucking bills?
Yeah, and it's a good point because it even I wasn't doing it as nearly as much as you were, but it does definitely start to feel like work. It's like
Yeah.
I felt like I was prioritizing games and like how I was playing them because I was going to stream them and I didn't want there to be portions missed. And then even while you're doing that, it's like you can't really enjoy the game because you're trying to interact with people, and
Yeah.
it's quite overwhelming. And I do still want to do drum streams again, but it's also another thing where it's like, okay, well, I'm taking what I can't just stream like me practicing because that's not
Yeah.
fucking fun. Like, who wants to watch me just play rudiments for 10 minutes? It's like has to be this entertainment value, and it's just sometimes you just don't fucking want to interact with human beings, which
Yes.
yeah, and preaching to the choir on that. And I'm sure a lot of people listening very much understand that. And a lot of times there's like, I'm gonna do this, and then you just sit down and you're like, and
Yeah.
all of the life is sucked out of you. So I completely get it. Now, are you gonna try to get back to it in any sort of fashion, like here and there, once a week, once a month?
Yeah, I want to get to like once a week, twice at the most. But
Hmm.
then each of those days, without scheduling them, just kind of like maybe it'll be a Monday and a fucking Friday. Maybe it'll be Tuesday and Wednesday, fucking 5 hours both days, whatever I'm in the mood to do. I just want to be a wild card. That's
Yeah.
kind of, and but I know that's not great because if you want to make it into something, people have to have that reliable schedule to be like, oh, well, Jack's going to stream such and such time on such and such day, and I can go and hang out and have fun. And that's all well and good. And I do the same thing for the streamers I really love to watch, where I'm like, oh, they're starting, and get into it. But most of the time, I'm just like, Jesus, you know, for, and I hate to make this like a image thing too, but even tonight, like you and I are just doing an audio podcast that people will hear, but we're on video right now. And I'm a very like, if I'm out in public at any sort of event or if I'm on camera, I have to have makeup. It's just who I am. And I don't have that on right now. And I'm like, fuck. So for streaming, it was like, Jesus Christ, I have to get up like 2 hours before I even stream, make sure I'm fed and watered, then do my fucking face, then do my fucking hair. And it was like, this itself is work now. Just for people to probably turn around and be like, well, she's like a fat, ugly bitch anyway. So, like, why are you trying?
No.
And it's not, it's just because I'm not like the 20-year-old streamer. I'm going to be fucking 40 this year. So it's different for me too, and I just have to prioritize, but I do miss it.
Mhm.
But I would rather not start big ass games. I'd rather do fun like Fall Guys or,
Mhm.
7 Days to Die or what is it? 7 Is it
7
7
days a
days?
day. Yeah.
Yeah. The Forest, things like that. That's what I wanna, like, just niche. I can hop in, hop out whenever I want.
Yep, and that's a really good point. And another great point you made because our friend Glitter, we met her through
Mhm.
streaming or whatever, and it was very much the same idea where she's like, "Well, I'm going to stream, but like I have to put makeup on." And it's like I don't have to worry about that. And you text me before, and you're like, "Well, I'm not putting makeup on." I'm like, "I'm going to shower and put a sweatshirt on." Like I do not care what you look like. Like that's not the point of this. But for a hefty fee, I will release the video of this that it's not
Don't
actually even
you
being
dare.
recorded, so it doesn't matter. But
Okay, good.
um, that there's just it's another added layer to that piece of the puzzle, especially if you're a female, which
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people like. If you don't have a camera on, people will say something. If you have
Mhm.
a camera on but you don't look presentable, people will say something. Like
Damned if you do.
yeah, a
Mhm.
friend of mine was streaming. I think she was cosplaying as Elvira and like baking cookies.
Nice.
And it started, and I popped in there, and then I like went to grab a beer or something. It came back, and the stream was gone. And I'm like, fucking what? And so I
Oh,
had
no.
talked to her partner, and I was like, "What's up?" And he goes, "Yeah, someone asked her if she was trans," and she's just like, "Fucking, I'm done." And that all plays back into like I'm used to having shit said about me.
Yeah.
I don't fucking care.
Mhm.
But when someone is very green to that, and something that direct comes out, like that's fucking traumatizing.
Yeah.
I as far as she knows, have no idea that that happened. So I can't really say anything, but it's like, God damn, like she was having so
Mhm.
much fun just playing games and being social because that's the type of person she is. And now that's gone because someone opened their fucking mouth. Now, did that person mean to be malicious? More than likely, but maybe not.
Mhm.
It's just you spend so much time on the internet, and that's the shit that bothers me. And it was like, how many
Yeah.
times did we talk about there were those hate raids and stuff going on? And it's like you can't even fucking play a video game in a social setting to provide some cheap or free entertainment to people without someone trying to ruin it because people are just inherently dog shit. And I'm the one getting made fun of for ravioli. Sorry, I
No, you
had to.
brought it back home. I
I had
fucking
to.
love
I
it.
had to.
I love it. Oh god, I'm such a bookend kinda girl. I Yeah, I mean, and first of all, like, that's the shit where it's like, it's none of your fucking business.
Right. Right.
Like, sexual orientation or how you identify or like, I'm so fucking sick and tired of people just opening their mouth. And
Hmm.
that's the other thing, to kinda segue a little bit to podcasting specifically. I find myself like, I'm having a very good time just chatting with you right now, and you and I are friends beyond
Yeah.
podcasting
Absolutely.
and streaming and things like that, and that's wonderful. But I really have a problem listening to male-only podcasts or male-only YouTube shows, or you know what I mean? Because I'm like, this is just like, there has to be is there not a woman talking about the same fucking thing, you know what I mean? Or doing
Yep.
the same thing. And it's not like I'm like, "Oh, feminist of the decade," or anything like that. I'm normal level feminist for being a woman, but
Just
I
feminist of the year, not decade. It's
Poor
funny you
yeah,
make that point, though. I'm just going to jump in real quick. Is
sure.
my friend Jack, not you, Jack Pacone, who does this worst episode ever podcast, Simpsons podcast. We had talked about doing something, and basically he was like, "Well, we need a female voice." And once again, this is me, Midwest. Don't really think about much. Nothing fucking really bothers me. These are things that I just don't really process because I don't really care. Like
Yeah.
I'll listen to dude stock. It doesn't really, but it's a very valid point to actually get the female perspective for a female. And there's things that Erica and I have talked about where it's like the new Muddy Duck show.
Mm.
There was one of the characters who had two moms, and they brought it up a bunch. And I was like, why is this a thing? And I
Yeah.
said, I'm not offended. I don't care. I'm just curious.
Mm.
And she very clearly and well explained it. And it's like, well, try being that subset of human and understanding that when you're like, as a white male in my 30s, I turn on the TV and I see me fucking all over.
Yeah.
And it's like, so to have that representation is huge. And so when you make that point, like, and obviously the older I get, the wiser I get,
All
quotes
of us.
wiser. Yeah. But it's like, so it's just, it's never really, and my biggest thing in life is like, I just don't want to offend anyone at this point.
Mhm.
Like if I say something or I say something off colored or dark humor, that's just who I am. I'm not trying to offend anyone unless I'm legitimately trying to offend you, which you will know. But
Yeah.
it's funny that you mentioned where it's like, well, I want to hear as a female, I want to hear the female perspective on this. And you just Now I'm talking a bunch. You just said you hate listening to guys talk. So
No. No. I love listening to you talk. Honestly, I laugh so fucking much at Monster Madness episodes. I really do.
I finally started re-listening. Like I refused to listen to me, and then Erica yelled at me enough, and now I listen to them. And sometimes I'm like, God damn, we're funny.
Yes.
So thank
She
you.
sends me like outtakes and shit, and I will literally have tears in my eyes sometimes. I'm not kidding you. When I'm like responding to some of those fucking Instagram posts, I'm like, this group of people. Like, I don't even need to be on the show. I just like
Right.
want to be there. Put me in
Yeah.
a producer role. But to go back to the serious stuff real quick with
Yeah.
representation, but also just a little bit of history, and I guess I'll talk a little bit of shit while I'm on this show. But
That's what we're here for.
yeah, right. It's great. But so I first started podcasting in 2016. So it's been a while now, and that was my first foray into it was trying to do a supernatural podcast for the CW show that was on for
Mm-hmm.
15 years. And excuse me, by that point it was in its 11th season or something. Tried it, didn't have the best like time schedule with my host who lives in Utah, wonderful friend of mine. But so that flamed out. And then I was invited to be on a Star Wars show just as a guest appearance. And then it turned into me being on every single week. And as the years progressed, it was very quickly like that first year I started full time January of 2017. And by August, no, July of June or July of 2017, I was doing everything, all of the editing. I rebuilt the entire website on my dime. I transferred and migrated all of the files that had happened, like 75 episodes previous to that. All of these articles that like guest spots and everyone, this, that, and the other, plus multiple different shows under the same umbrella name. It was a lot of fucking work. It took me like 7 days all in to move all of this stuff. And I made exactly $0. And the most I got, and I was just like, I'm happy to be a part of this. When I'm passionate about something, I'll do it. It's great. And I got a very nice thank you on the show, and that was the extent of it. Fast forward over the years, it was me and the other main person who was part of like the founder of the podcast, who at the time was one of my best friends. And I'm not going to name any names because I don't, it's just not worth it to give that person the satisfaction at this point. But the the role that I filled was by the other founder, who was like 6 months into the show, "This is too fucking much. I can't do this. I'm done." And I was like, "Okay, well, whatever." So I filled the show role, got us to the celebration stage in part in Star Wars Celebration in April of 2019 in Chicago. It was great. One of the best experiences of my life, like closest I'll ever get to fame, let's be real. And then things started to fall apart cuz my dad got sick. And it was like, well, I don't have time to edit these shows. And then people stopped, asking, would I be on this week? Or, are you too stressed out? And I was just kind of like, well, wow, fuck yourself. But
Right.
wow. Yeah. And long story short, I ended up leaving in early 2021 because I was like, I'm like officially done with this. And I think the podcast limped along for like 10 more episodes until November of 2021. This was done. Like once I left, it was done. And this person went on to write a book and listed the other male founder of the show who left 6 months into it, and the number one fan of the show, also a man, and lumped me in with everyone else saying, thanks for making the ride, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's my problem with the recognition of not even just me, but like women in any industry is fucking shitty. And I do 2 different Last of Us podcasts.
We'll get to those next, I promise.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm not here for that. But I have a lot of like very dedicated listeners and friends now who message me and they're like, "We can definitely hear the chip on your shoulder sometimes."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "It's never going to go away." Like I'm almost 40, and every industry I've ever worked has been male dominated, and I've had to like fight for my seat at the table, and it's so exhausting. So I'm going to have an attitude. And especially now with the main podcast, the official podcast is 3 dudes. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I stopped listening after episode 3.
Yeah. And that's
I'm all over the place, I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. That's a tough one because I don't see it that way. I get it,
Yeah.
and that's I'm trying to choose my words very carefully. Not that I think I'm going to offend you, but on the topic, I don't want to sound like a dumbass, but it's like, to me, if I like you or I don't. So
Mhm.
it's like, I don't care if you're black, white, purple, an alien. I don't care if had fully equipped or if you're
Yeah.
one or the other. I just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I understand why you do, and it sucks that
Mhm.
that happened, and it sucks that that went the way it did. But to an extent, like I probably made you a better person, and here you are.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, you're not whatever Star Wars famous. Who really wants to be Star Wars famous?
I mean, it's not even that, I don't even care, I just don't take shit no more. So that's,
Right,
like that's the lesson I learned. I take no shit, I'm gonna speak my mind, and that's a lot of people appreciate that about my show, a lot of people don't. And it's like, well, go find another fucking podcast, I
right.
literally don't care.
And that's a really good point. Is there are uh plethora of any number of topics of podcasts. If you don't like it, go fucking find another one. That's once again back to the ravioli thing. I was like, you don't fucking like what we talk about, just go somewhere else.
Oh
Like
my god.
there are
I
so many horror podcasts. There are enough horror podcasts that there's apparently a subreddit that has a segment or something that is called Monster Vanish or some shit that they came and gave us a dump truck full of 1-star reviews as a result. So it's like, yeah. So if you go look at our reviews, there's a bunch of ones because someone on Reddit found our podcast and didn't like that we were named. And it's like, fucking whatever. I don't give a shit. I don't do this for notoriety. I don't do
Mhm.
this for fame. I don't do this. Like, I think the time in which you can be a nobody and become famous with podcasts is very much over because everyone and their fucking mother has a podcast now.
Yeah.
I remember
Mhm.
having a mixer and having to like loop the audio back just to be able to record it. Like, I think I started podcasting in 2011, and
Wow.
it was because I moved in with my now wife in our apartment, and I moved away from the town I was in, so I didn't really have. I don't want to say I didn't have friends. I social person I can make him. It's not a big deal. But it was like a guy that I knew from Sheboygan who had also moved away asked me to do it. And I'm like, well, fuck it. I got all this free time. I was like going to school part time and working part time,
Yeah.
whatever. And that's how it started. So
Yeah.
it was like, it was never anything other than to be social with people.
Yeah.
And, it was never meet new friends or whatever. And fortunately, I've met you, I met Erica and Dan as a result. I met a lot of people that have become really good friends as a result of it. But
Mhm.
that was never the point. It was just whatever, we're going to talk about shit. Full disclosure, I used to eat a bunch of Adderall, and we would talk about, it was called What If was the first podcast. And it was like, what
Oh.
if the fucking world ended tomorrow? Or what if you won the lottery? So just I would turn my brain up to 14 and just talk.
I love that though. I
It
would
was
love
a
to
really
do
cool
that.
concept. Yeah, it was a cool concept, but it got really difficult to start thinking of like new what if topics.
Yeah.
And then that
Yeah.
turned into Weird World Weekly, which was fun, where it was like weird news from around the world.
I love all your podcast ideas, Matt. What the fuck?
I think they're still out there. Yeah, it's all the stuff that we did on Galactic Network or Netcast, whatever that ended up being. But
Nice.
then I ended up on the sci-fi film school, which is how I
Mhm.
met Andy Weir, who wrote
The Martian.
yeah.
I
It was like
fucking
right when
love that
it
book.
was before the movie came out, he came on, and I actually read the book, which is huge for me. But yeah, now he's big and famous. But yeah, there was a fucking, and I'm not a big sci-fi guy, so that's how Podcast of Terror started, because Corey would listen to sci-fi film school, and he was like,
Wow.
hey, why don't you just do a horror movie podcast? And then that's how him and I got hooked up, and here we are. So yeah, it's a lot of shit to do there. But you mentioned your Last of Us podcast, so I do want to go back to those. We briefly spoke before I started recording about the TV show. We
Uh-huh.
can talk about it. You know my feelings. I
Mhm.
was really worried I was going to offend you, so I'm
No,
glad we got
you
that
won't.
out of the way. But
No.
let's talk about your Last of Us podcast.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna start with the love of my life, which is the game, The Last of Us Part 1 specifically. My show is called Wayfaring Strangers, and it is the Last of Us, yeah, the Wayfaring Strangers, The Last of Us podcast.
Don't
And we're
brush off the promotion of your own show. Part of you being
I
here
know.
is to promote your show, so please do that.
I know. I'm like I feel so slimy whenever I
Yeah,
do
that's why I'm
promotional
telling
stuff.
you to do it.
I s- I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, Wayfaring Strangers, The Last of Us podcast, where we are breaking down the games in excruciating detail. So we take it chapter by chapter and subsection of each chapter by subsection, essentially. So we might play a 15-minute part of the game and talk about it for 2.5 hours and what it means to the overarching story, how it plays in. We can extrapolate exposition that wasn't a part of it, do all kinds of talking and theories and this, that, and the other. And we have an amazing following group of people. So we're able to get so many emails in, so many comments that we have bonus shows that we do called listener artifacts, which ties into the game. It's a really, it's like it's my favorite show I've ever done out of everything I've ever done, but it has been on hiatus since the show premiered, since The Last of Us on HBO show premiered on January 15th.
But you started a podcast about the TV show, though, right?
Did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Originally, we were going to lump it into the Wayfaring Strangers name, but I was like, people who are here for the games might not give a shit about this, and I don't want to jam it down their throats. And then people who might not even know this is based on a game don't want to weed through all of the other shit to get to this podcast. So we just came up with a very simple name called The Last Cast. And we are the unofficial Last of Us podcast because God forbid if we say anything else.
Yeah, right.
That was we had 9 episodes up and we knocked 9 right down, and it was fantastic to do. It was a lot of fucking work though. And we don't have a Patreon for it. We don't have a coffee for it. Like it was just literally between 2 to 3.5, almost 4-hour episodes every single week. It would take me eons to write and then record and then edit. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. So when it was over, I was like, I'm very much looking forward to just watching the show as a fan now and not as somebody who has to be so hypercritical and pull things apart. And like just today, for example, I kind of got into a little bit of a tiff on Twitter with somebody who's just trying to argue their point, and I'm like, okay. Like I got nothing. You're missing the fucking point, but it is what it is.
Yeah, fuck you, Sharon. I don't know. That's a fun game I like to play where when people complain about someone, I just guess the name of the person that they're complaining about.
No,
one of these times I'll be right.
You will be right. I'll tell you, it wasn't a woman.
Oh, okay. Well, fuck
So-
you, Greg. I don't even think you'll know his real name. You could say
I
his Twitter
do.
handle. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Well, then you
Yeah.
don't have to gaslight the guy.
No.
Or you could.
No. No.
Damn.
No. It is what it is. I make it very clear that I am not a fan of interacting. But yeah, so it's Wayfaring Strangers and The Last Cast. I love my little pod shows very much, and all of the fans and the friends that I've made from them, and I'm very eager to get back to Wayfaring Strangers for sure. But we're taking a little bit of break now, just because the last 2.5 months I can't believe that we're actually at the end of March because of how fast the fucking weeks have gone.
You are not fucking kidding. I can't remember. Something came up with work, and they're like, "Yeah, I have something that's supposed to be." They were trying to get it done by the 29th, and I'm like, "Going to go and beyond." And I was like, "Yeah, I will be good." And then I was like, "Oh, that's in 6 days."
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So we'll fucking see. But whatever,
Yeah.
it could be. I mean, you're a little further south than us, but it's like I can see my grass now, which is cool.
Yeah.
Because I could see my grass in the beginning of February, and then we got like 3 feet of snow, and then yeah, and
I'm jealous of that.
There's a time and a place. There was a period where it snowed for probably 8 days in a row, like not substantially, but there was snow 8 days in a row, and it was just like fucking stop. And then we had a snowstorm where I put a 2-inch hole in my tire while I was driving. Yeah. Have you ever watched the tire pressure slowly leave your tire while driving? I have. It was fucking terrifying. And then a guy with a hand tattoo of TUFF came over. His name is Tough. He offered me kitchen tattoos. I fucking wish I was joking.
There's a lot to unpack here, Matt.
There really is. If you want, I can give you a little more detail of the story. But okay,
Please.
so we had a snowstorm. I had to go into the office the next day. Not a big deal. You just drive slow. But on my way home, I was like, hey, I accomplished something. I'm going to stop and get some pho. So I went a little bit out of my way, start driving home. My tire pressure light turns on, and then I have on my screen, I have like a thing that plugs in so you can bring up and it'll show you your tire pressure. Mm. And I was like, ooh, it's at 11. That's bad. And I'm like, but I think if I keep driving, I'll be fine. And then 50 feet later, 10. I was like, fuck. I'm like, well, now I'm closer to my house than a gas station. So it's like, we're doing this. So it's like, there's to get to my house, you go up and then it's like, you turn right and it's about 3 miles from my house. And as I made that turn, I just heard like flat rubber. And I was like, well, that's bad. So I was like, well, just get home. That's all you can do. So we pay for AAA for obvious reasons. So I was like, I'm going to have some guy who's better suited at being an adult and living come replace my tire. So I was sitting there and like, whatever, made an appointment to get the tire fixed after the thing gets replaced. And then the van rolls up and I'm like, fuck yes, let's do it. And then out pours a 450-pound man with hand tattoos. And I was like, well, okay, well, whatever. So we were talking, we were joking around about, I was like, well, I pay for this because I don't want to do it. And he goes, I pay for it. If I'm not working, I'm not doing it. I said, it's funny you say that because like I work in IT, and if something technology breaks, no fucking part of me wants to fix it when I'm not working because that's all I do all day.
Yeah.
So we're talking or whatever, and band stuff came up because I was telling him about time when we started paying for AAA because we took my wife's old car to Milwaukee for a show, and the alternator went out while we were driving, and the thing fucker died. And I was like, so I had to call AAA, leave my wife on the side of the highway, get my gear into one of the other guys in my band's car, and then go set up so we could play. Like it was wild. So I was like, so I'll never not pay for AAA again. So he goes, oh, you play in a band? And I was like, yeah, fucking here's stickers or whatever. I said, hope you like it. We're playing in Appleton and coming up. You should come. And he goes, you want free tattoos? I'm like, what? He goes, I'm an aspiring tattoo artist. I tattoo out of my kitchen. I'm not licensed or anything, but anything easy is just free. Like, fucking what? I was like, yeah, man, I'll let you know. And I was wearing pants and a sweatshirt because it was like 30 degrees out. So you'd never know I was tattooed that way. But yeah, it was a fucking wild day. Yep. Yeah. No, just it's okay. Okay. Just process that. So I ended up calling my friend Dylan, and I was like, dude. So we fucking looked up his pictures, and his only picture of him on Facebook is just him with like an assault rifle at his kitchen table. I'm like, I think we know who he voted for.
Oh God.
which it's very, yeah, it's very much that color in these parts of the woods. So
Yeah.
I think we were actually talking about something before I steered you in the wrong direction. As I mentioned, I've had a rough couple days at work, so I am drinking quite heavily right now.
I get
So
it.
yeah.
No,
Okay,
I get
so okay. So
Yeah.
so I what did you think of the show? Without getting into too much detail, because I know you love the games, and
Mhm.
you also have a podcast that people can listen to get all of your thoughts. So just like
Yes. So here's the thing. All right, let me preface by saying this, and I know some of this shit can get cut in the end if I deem it too like
just tell
damaging.
Erica. I don't edit it.
Hi Erica.
Hi,
But
Erica.
hi. I said quite a bit on the last cast in particular. I had my reservations going in to this show from the beginning, and I made a lot of points earlier on in the season where I was afraid of some of the shit that they were introducing, just building upon, and I'm like, this better have a payoff. Like, you can't bring so much more into this story and then do nothing with it by the end of the show. And just cutting to the chase, I was right. They brought in all of this shit and then they basically did nothing with it by the end of the show. So, overall for me, I did not love it as much as I anticipated I would. I think they skipped over some elements that built on the bonds that they were trying to establish with only dramatic scenes. Do I love it to some degree? Yes, but it this is actually how I summed it up for one of my best friends. I was like, "Do you know when you watch a TV show, even if you know what's going to happen to an extent, if you watch that TV show and it finishes the season, you're still fucking thinking about it for like a couple days afterwards or a week afterwards. Like Dexter season 4 fucked me up for a week.
That's because it was good. It wasn't
Yes.
season 7.
But even still, I like had this pit in my stomach. And certain seasons of Game of Thrones, like just certain things, I'm very much in the zeitgeist when it comes to most of my shows. Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, things like that. I'm thinking about for like days afterwards. As soon as The Last of Us ended, I was done.
Real quick, since you mentioned Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad,
Sure.
shout out friend of the show Kevin Howard, who worked on the new show Unlucky Hank that just came out, starring Bob Odenkirk.
Nice.
First episode, real good. But so what you mentioned about how Dexter season 4 left a pit in your stomach, I think it's because you get invested.
Yes.
You know, and my complaints about Last of Us, the TV show, aren't great. Like, I'm not saying that what I have to say or why I didn't like it is anyone should put any sort of stock in it. It's just when they started to take some liberties with the backstory of characters that weren't really spelled out in the game is kind of like, I didn't sign up for this. An exact sentence, and I apologize if this upsets anyone or offends anyone, but I text a friend and I said, I didn't sign up to watch Nick Offerman butt fuck another dude. It's like, I don't care. Once again, I said earlier, I don't care if you're gay, straight, I don't give a fuck.
Mhm.
But it's like, to create a backstory that didn't really exist in the game, to further, to make a TV episode, like, it didn't do anything for me. And it was just like, if this is how you're going to do it, cool. That's for some
Mhm.
people. It's just not for me.
Mhm.
Leading up to the point where it turned into a weird episode about a love story, it was awesome, like seeing his house and how he had built and all this shit, because it is a character that you do see at the end of the first game, and it's like you don't really get that. So some
Mhm.
people want it. I just didn't. I didn't get past that because I had a feeling that there was going to be a lot of liberties and added story, and that's fine. Once again, like we talked about, it's just not for me. But I
Mhm.
really liked the first game. If I still had a PlayStation, I would have played 2. Eventually, it'll come out on PC, and I'll play it then.
5 days.
But
The Last of Us Part 1 comes out on
oh,
PC in 5 days, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Which I've played the first one. It's the second one that I haven't played.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the
It didn't confuse me. I've been drinking.
sorry.
I was streaming, I use the term streaming differently than before, but I was streaming a friend's PlayStation to my computer to try to play God of War Ragnarok.
Mm,
And it was working fine. And he goes, well, I have Last of Us 2 also. It's just, I can't sit at my computer and like play a console game for hours. It just loses me.
yeah.
But um yeah, it's, and the TV shows are always different than the games, or the books are different than the movies, and vice. So it's, I think it sucks when they try to create something out of nothing. And to your point, is they didn't answer all the questions, or
Mhm.
they didn't do it. And then is that because they're going to do that in later seasons? The plan is to do it in later seasons if they have them.
Maybe.
Maybe because you have
Yeah.
two. So I have not finished season 1, obviously.
Mhm.
Did they complete the first game in season 1?
They sure did.
So you're telling, okay, so wrap your brain around this one. So season 2 is game 2. If they want to do season 3, there's probably not going to be a Last of Us 3 that comes out in that amount of time, because they can pump out TV shows a lot quicker than video games. So are they going to revisit a lot of these topics that they'd shirked on in season 1 moving forward to create time until they have more content?
Well, game 2 will be split between at least 2 seasons, but they said it
Okay.
could be split up to 4.
Wait. Now,
Like,
game 2 is like considerably longer than the first one.
it's not considerably longer. It's at most, if you are dicking around, it's at most.
So if you're playing it like you,
Yeah. But here's the thing, I'm not and again, this is something that I'm sure people have picked up on. I don't talk about it publicly because if you dislike The Last of Us Part 2, then you're basically a piece of shit. And I don't jive with that's not a for me statement. I did not like the storyline of Part 2. I thought it was undermining to Part 1. I thought it didn't do justice to what the core of the story was, and they deviated for shock value. And that is an incredible simplification of how I feel about it. But the game as a whole, it's a perfect game. Like the combat mechanics, the textures, the world, the graphics, the fidelity, like everything about it, right down to accessibility is just next fucking level. And this game came out in 2020 and it's still better than shit that's being released today. So that is a testament to what Naughty Dog as a studio does with their games, but the story is absolute garbage to me. And I've said that long before I had podcasts and before I was into VP and things like that. I don't know if people are going to look up those tweets. Like, please don't waste your fucking time, dude. But I think the most I've said publicly was this game ain't it.
right?
And people were like, well, you're a bigot. You're a fucking hater. You're anti this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, I'm just anti shit storytelling. That's all I am.
Which sucks that you say that you don't like a video game that has a story that I, once again, haven't played it, but I know that the story centers around a female and female relationship to some extent. Correct?
I would not say it's a major plot point.
Okay.
But it certainly is a heavy plot. Like, the LGBT community is represented, and, like,
Which is awesome. That
it's
doesn't happen in video
amazing,
games a lot.
and I
Yeah.
wanted to love that. Even the quote protagonist or antagonist. Like there is no protagonist or antagonist in the game. It's what you make of it essentially, but in my opinion the antagonist is this big like very just bodybuilder type woman, which I was like that's incredible. Like I want to see what this person's going to do because this is not something you see represented in video games like ever. And I was anticipating just something much more meaningful and just swinging right out of the gate, literally swinging right out of the gate. And I was like, I fucking hate her. And to this day, I still do. And I know that this upsets people and maybe I'll lose followers for it if they listen to this, whatever. But I legitimately don't understand how I was supposed to identify with the character when she was written at such an extreme negative. I'm a writer, and from an extreme negative standpoint, I'm like, this is not how writing happens.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Which is it's a very valid point because you can't write every character to fit or jive with every person.
Mm-hmm.
So you not liking them is 100% valid and okay. Like I played the Quarry and there were characters in that game I fucking hated. And that's just the way it
Yeah,
is. And
same.
it's yeah. So for someone to call you whatever name that they decided to call you as a result of you not caring for someone, who fucking cares? But you made a comment about how great Naughty Dog games are, and that's true. All the Uncharted games are phenomenal. Last of Us 1, I'm sure 2 is just as good.
Yeah.
But I haven't loved every character that's been in every one of those games either. That's
sure.
just the way it is. And were they supposed to be written in a light that would connect with you or someone you'd really like? Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
That's the shit that really bothers me about the way that the world is. And it's like, if you have a differing opinion from everyone, we can't just have an adult conversation and understand why you see that. And that's a huge thing with my involvement with wrestling and wrestling fans.
Yeah.
We have very different opinions on a lot of things. Some of the guys that I work directly with, we have different opinions, but as adults, like one of the guys, him and I went to Fargo, North Dakota for a weekend. It's an 8-hour drive. And I was like, let's talk about shit. So we talked about all sorts of stuff. And it was it was great because it's like, okay, we don't agree, but explain to me why we don't. Like, why do you think this? Why do you feel this? Like, let's just talk about it. And it's like, you can't do that anymore. And that goes back to what we talked about, where somebody, people are saying shit about you on the internet. People are saying shit about me on the internet. And it's like, if you don't like what I have to say, just fucking go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't like this. And everyone hides behind a keyboard. And it's like, well, I can say this because you'll never actually figure out who I am. There's just a screen between us. And these people would never say this shit if they were face to face because
exactly.
This inflated sense, this inflated ego because there's separation. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't, the world is a terrifying place.
I think a really good example, like Erica and I see The Last of Us Part 2 extremely differently. It is her game. It is her jam.
Mm-hmm.
It is her favorite game of all time. She plays it more than anything that I've ever talked to her
She's
about
also
playing
an idiot and a piece of shit. So, Erica, I love you.
I love you too, Erica. I think I'm really looking forward to the podcast that her and I do because they are going to be such differing opinions, but her and I have a really good way of having that discourse in a respectable manner. And
lots of Philly accents.
Yeah. Yes.
Lots of pasta.
Yeah, and assholes. But it bothers me that it's like I have to be quiet about this. Like I'm really good friends with a lot of like virtual photographers. I talk to them every day. We share our images on Instagram or Twitter or this, that, and the other. And the majority of them are very big fans of this other character in part 2 that I dislike. And I had to make a point to just be like, listen, I love your work. I'm never going to acknowledge when you do anything regarding that character because I have such an aversion because of my experience. Now, listen, and maybe I should have said this up front, but people out there who are listening who A, know me, or B, have played The Last of Us Part 2. The game came out on June 19th, 2020. My dad died on April 3rd, 2020. So I had literally this like 2.5 month pocket of hardcore grief in a way that I've never experienced before. And then this fucking game comes out and the worst thing imaginable happened. in the game. And it was like, there's no way. And I say this to Erica often. I'm like, I wish that I could be there with you. And all of my other friends that I know that love this game so much, I'm like, I wish I could experience that with you. But this came out at the worst possible moment.
That's a really good point, though, is because I think a lot of times people forget that there's the human aspect involved.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever you're going through will very much affect how you take something in or how you perceive something. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It fucking sucks that people can't just allow differing opinions without having to say something. And that's part of what makes humanity great. What
Mhm.
makes being a human and being alive awesome is the fact that we can have differing opinions. We can still be friends at the end of the day, and it's fine. It's fucking okay.
Yeah.
A great quote that someone, I don't even know if it's a quote. Someone told me this one
Mhm.
time, or I made it up in my sleep. I'm not sure. I do drink a lot, but it's 25% of people will never like you.
Mm.
25% of people will never like you, but can be convinced to like you. 25% of people will like you and be convinced that they can't like you, and 25% of people will like you no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's a really good fucking point. Is like
Mhm.
you can't please everyone you encounter.
And it's exhausting trying to. So stop.
Absolutely. And that's, I think when you make that realization, it's a very freeing moment because it's just like, fuck it, I'm going to be me and I'm going to say what I want, and
Mhm.
fuck it. Like, and that's, I don't know if I learned that early or whatever, but I've always just kind of said whatever. And
Mhm.
I've pissed a lot of people off and I've clearly had a lot of shit said about me. Fuck it,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, you only have so much time on this planet. Mother Nature is 100% undefeated. If anyone's unsure of that,
Yep.
so fucking get it in while you can, because no one knows what happens after this.
Mhm.
So double freedom rockets to anyone that has anything to say that doesn't, if they're gonna fucking whatever, fuck them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know what the next topic is at this point.
No, one of the things that you talked about way back earlier in the conversation about the Last of Us show
Yeah, you
that
have a
I just
better
want to go.
recall than I do right now. I'll just keep drinking.
Yes, it's fun. I love it. So you're talking about the Bill and Frank episode, no, which was the third one
Third
in the
one, yep,
series.
yep.
Yeah. I that weirdly enough, that was not weirdly enough because of the context, but weirdly enough, given how much you disliked it and it turned you off from the show, that was my favorite episode of the whole season because I made a point. I was like, this show is excelling so wonderfully by doing its own fucking thing. And I think when they try to mirror or replicate almost identically with dialogue, movements, interactions, even like physical responses between Joel and Ellie, particularly from game one, I'm like, it's fallen flat for me because they're trying to do something that was already done in my eyes perfect. So it's like, do something differently. And then I think the pendulum swung just too far in that different direction. So we had a 9-episode season, and two of the episodes, well, one of the episodes had really nothing to do with the original story. They just gave this beautiful backstory to two ancillary characters that, I mean, Bill's Town is one of the early chapters, but it was one of the best chapters with fighting and working together and this, that, and the other. And then it was heartbreaking when Frank, you know, when it's revealed that Frank was dead, but I'm like, Bill didn't seem that fucking heartbroken. You know what I mean? Like, so when they turned it into something more, I'm like, okay, well, that's better to me. I like this. But then it was like no infected after episode 5. And then they brought in the Left Behind DLC. So they didn't extend the season, but they took away from the core show or the core of the game. And I'm like, how do you want me to feel for these characters when a quarter of their journey wasn't showed to me?
And that's, it's funny, you made a comment earlier about how game 2 is going to potentially be 4 seasons long or some shit. So it's like, why did you jam one game into one season, but you'll take the next 4 to get across season 2 or game 2? Now, going back a little bit on what you said about how that episode was awesome for you, and
Mm-hmm.
100% going back to what we said is like, I love that we have differing opinions. We're still friends at the end of the day.
Sure.
Fucking
Yeah.
whatever. I understand that me as a human being and the amount of entertainment, the amount of stimuli that is out there is like, if you don't fucking grab me,
I'm
next.
out. Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, that's just the way that I am. I
Mhm.
do so much that it's like, if it doesn't grab me, I'm just going to move on to the next thing. And it's someone else can enjoy it. That's fine. I never watched Game of Thrones. I never made it past episode 3. I don't get the allure. My goddamn brother had a Jon Snow license plate.
What did it say?
Jon Snow.
Did it really?
100 fucking yeah. So a very, very close friend of mine worked for the post office. I don't think I'm trying to keep any sort of identifiers out because I think you can get in trouble for this, but he had sent me a picture of the license plate because he knew he sorted the mail.
Yeah.
So it's just like, your fucking brother got these. And I was like, oh boy. Yeah, it came right after the Ravenclaw ones. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, so your brother loves Harry Potter and Game of Thrones.
I got him a replica Sorcerer's Stone for standing up in my wedding, which I'm like, that's a fucking killer
awesome.
gift. Yeah. Yeah. I played the fucking shit out of Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, you smoke little drugs, you fly around on a goddamn broomstick. It's a good time. It's so much fun. I had a ton of fun playing that game. It was like, so, once again, like the fantasy aspect, like the Game of Thrones stuff, doesn't really do it for me. Harry Potter, like I've enjoyed all the movies. I watched them multiple times. The game is great. So it's just like, it's how you grab me.
Sure. Yeah.
Back to this is like, I think this is before we recorded. I don't even know anymore, but it was like what I wanted in The Last of Us is I just wanted an action quasi zombie show.
Sure.
And I got a little more drama and story and I didn't care for it. So I just moved on.
Yeah.
And just rewatch The Office for the 47th time. I don't really care. But I'm glad that there are people that enjoyed and with how much you like the game, and it's awesome. Like, I guess I would be more upset if, knowing how much you love those games, you're like, this TV show is fucking trash.
Yeah, that would break my heart.
Right.
If it was like just like creative trash and look cheap, or I would be like, for fuck's sake, HBO.
Just, so without, are we good to move past Last?
We're good. Yeah.
Okay, we stayed on that topic a little longer than I thought, but so what I guess what I want to, there's two topics that I want to cover is what other games do you really like getting into, but also being a horror movie adjacent podcast is we got to talk about your, what horror movies, and I know how much you love horror, so definitely want to talk about that. But outside of Last of Us and what else are you playing or what else are you into?
I'm picky.
No, really?
Yeah. Okay. I try to expand my horizon sometimes, and then I'm like, I go back to my like core faves. I love narrative driven games. So like obviously The Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, things like that. Really, just I will be happy to sink 1,000 hours into those and then come up for air and be like, oh, let's go back for 1,000 more. But I haven't played Hogwarts Legacy yet, just because I'm waiting for it to go on sale, because I have such a backlog that I'm like, I can't justify.
Have you done the Steam calculator?
No.
It'll fucking tell you how many games you haven't even started playing.
Is it just on Steam, or like I can put in?
It's just Steam. So there's a class action lawsuit with Steam overcharging. So that was why I had to run it. And it was like, I have like 260 games. And I was like, you haven't even played 50 of them. And I was like, oh boy.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I bought Horizon Forbidden West like a month ago, finally, after it was out for a year. There's just God of War Ragnarok. Like, there's so many games that I just haven't played because I love going back to Skyrim, The Last of Us, Red Dead, and Right now, I'm playing The Long Dark, which I'm binging the fuck out of. I love it. It is a grind kind of game. So it's not for everyone. But I'm an insane person, so I'm like, oh, I have to balance. Okay, backpack balancing and math. Let's do it. But I don't know.
So you mentioned the Forest earlier. Are you going to get Sons of the Forest?
Yes, as soon as it comes to console, because I don't have PC.
Fuck.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Right, well, there goes do you want to play it sometime? Because the group of people that I play it with went back to playing 7 Days to Die.
I would have loved to, but they don't. What? It just came out in February, right?
Yeah, 1 month ago today.
Yeah, so it probably will not come out for console until like February 2024.
It's still in early access. It's going to be a while.
Oh fuck! I didn't know it was early access.
Yeah, so they had set the February 23rd release date or 24th, whatever, and basically said like we don't want to shirk on the date, so we're just putting out in early access. But it's like everyone's like it's as fucking close to done as a game as you'd ever see in early access, and like they've just been adding some shit. Like, I think they just added hang gliders. But my favorite part is you can 3D print a sled and then go up to the top of the mountain and fucking sled down. Yeah. We spent a night just watching each other sled down. Yeah, it's a fucking good time.
Yeah. No, I love It's either the game is fucking endless
Mm-hmm.
or it is very fine line linear. It swings both ways. So like No Man's Sky, endless game. I've probably sunk 500 hours into that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But I love grindy kind of games where it's like I have to do the same fucking thing, but it's in a different planet, so
Mhm.
it's different, Whereas I know many people who are like, "Oh, this gets boring so fast for me. I have to move on." But
And I can see that
mhm.
personally. There's if there's like an end in sight,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't even say an end in sight, but it's like there's milestones along the way
Mhm.
where it's like if you get a little bit to get a little bit to get a little bit to eventually get the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like fuck, I can't think of the name of the game. It was like an MMORPG.
Hmm.
Played it a lot during the beginning of the pandemic because I hated my job. It was before I switched jobs, and I just did nothing but play video. Like I played Death Stranding during work hours the first 6 months of the pandemic before I took a different job. That's how much I loved that job. But it was very much like just log in and chop down 20 trees today, and
Mhm.
mine 20 ore and kill 50 guys, and it was like every fucking day. But it was like at
Oh,
the end of the
yeah.
month, you got a fucking new mount. So
Oh.
shit like that, or
Fallout 76 and Fallout 4 are my favorites to grind in too. I love those.
didn't Fallout 76 just have a big ass update too?
I think so. They do. They do so much in that game. And people
Yeah.
constantly bitch. And I'm like,
Well,
shush.
Albion. That's the game I was thinking of. Sorry,
Albion?
Albion.
Albion.
Albion. It's a free online, but you could pay for you could pay monthly to get added shit. Like every
Oh.
fucking free game known to
I
man.
know, yeah. Although it sounds a little bit like Elder Scrolls as well, but Elder Scrolls is you got to pay for this shit up front, and then when you're in the game, you got to pay for more.
Do you have Elder Scrolls Online?
I do.
Someone talked me into buying it, so I have it. I just haven't started playing it.
It's a lot.
Wow, it was $6 and I was drunk. Which story of my life.
There's a new game on that just came to Xbox Game Pass called Valheim.
Oh yeah. I was talking.
Yeah, I want to try that.
I'm gonna download it right now
Which one?
because Valheim,
Yeah.
and then we can be best friends.
Could we play like if I'm on my Xbox?
Oh,
Is
I'm gonna
that?
download it on Xbox. I have one of those too.
I
Yeah,
didn't know.
yeah. I got rid of PlayStation. I got a Series X when it came out,
Mm-hmm.
and then I sold my PS4 to get a Switch, which collects
Nice.
dust ever since I got a puppy. So yeah,
But the puppy.
oh, I fucking love that dog so much. We don't have to get into that. He's got bad hips. He's just a fucking medical bill waiting to happen.
Oh, and he's
Partially
that.
torn crucia in his knee. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah,
How old is he?
18 months.
What kind of dog is this?
A Lagotto Romagnolo.
I don't know what that is.
He's an Italian water dog, so he looks like a poodle. Everyone thinks he's a poodle. But we had to. Now I live in Wisconsin, towards the middle,
Mhm.
and we had to drive to the Ozark Mountains, which is southern Missouri,
Oh my
to
god.
get this dog. We did it in 2 days. We drove there, slept in a hotel, picked him up at 9 a.m. the next morning, and drove home.
Ugh, I love adventures like that though.
Oh, dude, it was fucking exhausting. It was 20 hours of driving in 2 days. I want to say it was 1,300 miles, something like
Wow.
that, in December. So we lucked out that the weather was, but it was like we left and it was 20 degrees, and we got to Missouri and it was 70, and then we got home and it was fucking 20 again. But
Damn.
yeah, it was long 2 days. He's worth it. It sucks when you hear that he's got birth defects and shit. But
I'm sorry.
dude, you'd never know. We took him, so because we know he's in any knee surgery, we took him to, like, we've been doing like one-on-one stuff with him, and the girl was like, you'd never ever guess that this dog has anything going on. He
Oh.
fucking will run around in our backyard as long as we'll let him. He'll chase the fucking chickens. He pushes his ball around and shit. Like you'd never know. But he's happy as fuck. So that's all
Yeah.
that matters. That's all I care about.
I mean, he has to exhibit some sort of symptoms though. If
He was
he's
limping.
Yeah, there
And
it
that's
is.
when we took him in to get x-rays, and that was a whole nother thing because he doesn't like being held down because he's a fucking party dog. So they had to sedate him, which I know this podcast just took a real dark turn, but not even dark, sad turn.
Yeah,
But
but if we were sitting by a fireside, this is the stuff we'd be talking
true.
about.
That's
So
true. That's a really good point. But yeah, so we had to give him, I think it was it was either tramadol or trazodone. I'm not sure which one's a sedative.
Mm.
But in a lot of dogs, it has a bad effect. And it happened to Barf where it was like, all of a sudden we were like, cool, it's kicking in. He's going to fucking calm down. And then it was panic shriek barking, and he was scared of me for 35 minutes. And finally it was like, listen, normally goes to bed about 8:30. It was like 8:35. I said, just put him in his crate. Hopefully he'll calm down.
Yeah.
And I just fucking sat on the couch in silence because I was like, that was just the most heartbreaking. Like seeing him scared and just being like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the next morning, we didn't give him the other one. And they're like, we'll just sedate him. They gave him a shot and it's like, he was fine. But
Yeah.
then that fucking vet was a cocksucker. The
Ugh.
worst part about it is like, I understand it looked like dirty brown water trash to most people. Like, I don't, I know to you, it's not. But like,
Yeah.
if I walk into a place, like when we had to put Dieter down, I wore a death sweatshirt because that's the fucking type of person I am. And Alyssa was just like, "Do you really have to wear that one?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like this is how I get through these things. Like,
Yeah.
let me have my dark humor."
Yeah.
So it's like I get that I'm not the most conventional looking human being, but to put into question of like, can I afford the care for my dog? It's like, fuck you. You don't know what I do.
To have that judgment on you just because,
Yep.
wow, fuck that.
Yep. So
That's when you return to it like big mistake, huge.
exactly. But that's all going back to like what does what I look like or how I feel make a fucking difference of what I am as a human being.
It doesn't, and it shouldn't, but people are dicks.
Oh God. And that's the thing is that's like one of my favorite things is, like obviously if you listen to the show, Jack, I know you know, but it's like I play in a band. So it's a lot of times when I play in a band and people are like, dude, you work in IT or vice versa. And it's like, yeah, we come in this color too. And it's like I can look like this and I can still
Yeah.
be quote unquote smart and I can still
Be
play
successful.
angry music. Yeah. And it's like you can fucking do both. I was talking to a coworker of mine yesterday. So on Wednesdays I have to go into the office. And we were going to get something to lunch and going to get something to eat for lunch, beer. And I was explaining to him like, oh yeah, one of our guitar players like a fucking programmer for Batteries Plus, and our singers, a big wig in music, and our bass player is like a supervisor for an ink factory. And he goes, dude, it's fucking so weird to be like, you guys play this angry music, but like two of you work in IT, and one guy's like put on a polo shirt and be a supervisor. And I'm like, yeah, we're just fucking dudes,
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, like it's what's inside that really matters. And it's like, you can't judge a book by its cover.
Mm-hmm.
This is an old saying, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a dog.
Send me a picture of Barf, please.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
Horror
movies. Yeah.
movies.
So I know you're not huge.
You know my favorite horror movie.
I do, but the fans don't.
Yes. Hello, fans listening to the show. My name is Jack, and my favorite horror movie is Pumpkinhead.
It's a fucking good. It's a good movie for what it is. Let me say
I'll take it. I will take that from you, Matt.
We did it on Podcast of Terror. We have not done it on Monster Madness.
Mm-hmm. We did. Well, I was on for that episode. That's how I met you.
I drink a lot. And that was. Oh yeah. Okay. So I did do it twice because okay. Just gonna stop talking. I sent you a picture of Barf. Hopefully that makes up for the fact that I forgot of how I met you. Or forgot how I met you.
Yeah, that was a fun night.
I'm sure it was a great night. I was there. So you do play horror games? I know that, but
yes,
not super in depth. Like you're not playing Amnesia because Amnesia fucked me up.
I still want to play Phasmophobia with you somehow one day.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're out of that phase. Get a computer.
I haven't played it in a really long time, but I still have it installed, and I do really want to play it again. Like, I've been trying to get Glitter to play it, but it's another thing where it's like she's just back on 7 Days to Die, and time and all that shit. They did release some crazy fucking updates not that long ago. You can buy like the fucking Voodoo Doll. Yeah, the Tempest update that came out at the beginning of March. Definitely want to play it. We'll have to figure out how. It can't be that hard. Yeah. I'd be shocked if it doesn't show up on consoles with crossplay at some point.
I'm shocked it hasn't yet.
Agreed. And I know Xbox now has Discord.
So is PlayStation.
Okay. Well, and that's like
yeah.
I was talking to little Dill, and he was like, "Well, how do I do it?" I'm like, "We used to fucking just join Discord on our phone." And then play, use that for chat and still crossplay. Like, it's not that hard. Why do people make this shit so difficult?
Yeah, I know. It's 2023. Like, what the fuck?
I hate how it's like you Google it and it's like, oh, it's coming on Xbox release date, and it's just gonna say we have no release date. It's gonna release on consoles when the game is more fleshed out. So you should probably wait till 2024.
Damn.
Yeah, well, we're almost halfway through 2023.
Almost.
So
I know.
don't forget that part of the story. But also, it's like I feel like that game's going to be around for so long. It was the innovator of that style, and I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of the other ones that came after it haven't really done shit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to think of all the other ones I have, like the I have to actually
What is it?
look at.
Backrooms? That's kind of similar, right?
Yeah, there was. Fuck, I have too many games in my Steam library to try to read through all these. But there was, you know, the and I can't even. This is just miserable. I'm trying to kill time just till I can find another one to say the name for.
You're vamping. It's all good.
Yeah. There was like the Ghost Hunter core, some shit. I think that was one of them. Then there was the one that was like Ancient Egypt.
Oh, I have one in my. I haven't bought it, but it's in my wish list forever. Madison. I heard Madison was
Oh,
really good.
I heard that's quite scurry.
I did play. So while you're looking at that, I'll talk about my experience
Please
playing
do.
was it Resident Evil 4 demo on PlayStation VR.
Oh Christ. Even I won't fuck with VR horror games.
I so oh god, if you know me, you know Andrew is my other half on the podcast and in life, but so he bought it, very excited about it, and he was like, "Do you want to try it? I have Horizon Call of the Mountain, which is VR," and he's like, "Or I have Resident Evil 4." And I was like, "Let's be a bad bitch and try Resident Evil 4." And now I've never played a Resident Evil game in my life. So I went in unknowingly. He had to basically be a satellite standing around me because there would be moments where I would just like squeeze the controllers and drop to the ground. And I'm like, this scares me for fight or flight because I thought I'd be better than that. But
There's a friend of mine who plays a lot of like horror games, and he had sent me a video of him playing Resident Evil 7.
oh, I
And
just
like,
bought that.
yeah, peeking around a corner and like something
Oh,
jump scared him, and he just was like, "Wow!" I mean, it'll fucking jump scare will get anyone if it's done right.
yeah,
Resident Evil 7 is a phenomenal game if you haven't played it before.
I haven't.
7 and 8 are both incredible in my opinion. I'm pretty excited for the remake of 4.
Mm-hmm.
I've never played 4, so you know,
Mm.
1 and 2 didn't really do it for me. I'm still killing time to try to find one of these fucking games, but
Yeah, I bought Resident Evil 7. The PlayStation store had a sale and it was like $7. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I will do it. And I posted a tweet where I was like, I've never played this game and I think I might buy it and stream it. Don't know what to expect. So that could be fun. I just like that's what I want my stream channel to be. I just want to be fucking scared the whole time and
Mhm.
people to delight in that.
Mhm.
That's all.
Exactly, and that's what's fun is like I used to do, and it was granted it was before we had barf, but I would just do like Sunday day drinking streams and play fucking horror games because why not?
Yeah.
Ghost Exorcism Inc. is one of them. I think that used to be Ghost Hunter Core, and then they changed the name a bunch. And I can't remember. There was 2 other ones. It was one was a more puzzle game, but there was shit. It's just fucking whatever. Either way, there was a
Mm.
plethora of one, and it was the same with when they announced Friday the 13th, the game. Then they made Dead by Daylight, which was the same concept that Ace, and it's not really asynchronous, but the 5v1 escape type game.
Yeah.
And then a whole shitload of those came out, and now you know Texas Chainsaw Massacre is coming out. Blah 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 blah. But
Is that
it's
another game? The 5v1 type thing?
it's I think it's 4v3, so it's a
Oh,
little different in the fact that there are more than one person trying to kill you.
shit.
Yeah, but it's also by Gun Media, which did Friday the 13th. And keep in mind, the whole reason Friday the 13th the game fell apart is because of licensing. Like they lost the
Mm.
licensing to Jason, so they stopped development because they couldn't really do anything on it anymore. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre should be a little better. You know, it's they probably hopefully learn from their mistakes. But at the end of the day, is I'll buy it because who doesn't fucking want to play as Leatherface chasing around people with a goddamn chainsaw? Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do. You're
No.
gonna buy it on Xbox. We're gonna play it. It's gonna be fucking great.
I would have to be the killer in that situation. I could not be pursued by my hands are getting sweaty. We've talked about that. Like I'm uh I'm fine. Like I'll do certain horror, but there are certain like Erica loves to torture me with Art the Clown gifs, and that turns my fucking stomach. And I'm like, I literally need you to stop because I can't handle this. I'm one of those.
You realize you just
Made it
gave me
worse.
fire to
Oh
like
God.
fucking
Please don't.
yeah.
Please don't.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it's the viscer. I can't do if you kill someone basically from like tits up or like thighs down, I'm fine. But once you involve the abdomen, I'm out.
It's when the
I'm out.
intestines come out. That's when I have problems.
Yeah, I can't
Hmm.
handle it. I can't do it.
Well, I mean, I guess I can appreciate that, but all I'm hearing is that we need to get you involved in more horror games for the sheer enjoyment of the people.
Yes, horror games, yes. Horror movies, no.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, no, we're gonna make you watch some more, and have to talk to Erica about having you on for some gruesome shit. Well, I mean, the next season is comedy horror,
You're
so
so
that's not really
excited.
gonna. I am. I'm far more excited than the fucking Twilight season.
Matthew, I cannot get enough of you. Hate
I fucking hate those movies so much.
just hate watching Twilight. Here's the thing. We're already simpatico, but like we're going to be even more simpatico when I tell
Right.
you this right now. I can't fucking stand those movies.
They're bad. They're
They're
not good
bad.
movies.
They're
Like
bad movies.
we've had the conversation. I think. Well, as of recording this, Breaking Dawn Part 1 just came out on Monday.
Mhm.
Today's Thursday, but it's just like they get worse. The further in you get, they get just worse. I'm sure the books are fine. I'm sure the story's better, but it's like what they put into a movie. It was just like, here's a nice piece of shit, and they just threw it at a camera. You know I'm right, and that's the worst part.
I think everybody knows you're right, but there's that nostalgia factor or that like
I won't
this
argue that.
reminds me. Listen, at one point in my life, and Erica's probably listening to this, like, bitch. At one point in your life, you loved them, and I did. I was that person. I waited in line with people because before like movie theaters had fucking selected seats and shit. And now I'm like, what was I thinking? Awful.
Right, but I think there's every person listening to this has done that at some point, and you're fucking lying if you tell me otherwise. It's like you get really invested in something, and then
Yeah.
looking back, you're like, why did I do that?
All right,
And
here's
it's
a question from me to you. Name something that applies to you. What was something you got deeply invested in, and then years later or months, you look back and you were like, why? But why though?
I know for a fact there is something, but nothing's coming to mind, and I'm not trying to get out of it as like this is embarrassing. It's like I fucking know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of things that I've named or done. Fuck. I had a tattoo on my stomach, okay?
Okay.
And it was like, this is gonna be fucking awesome, like Trollo Thug style, where it was my initials.
Mm-hmm.
And the M was the Metallica M. The A was a German style A with an umlaut on top, and then the S was the Slipknot S.
Okay.
That was a piss poor idea, which I have since covered up. The other one was the saying "Know thyself" from The Matrix, which in the movie is not right, that I got tattooed on the inside of my arm, which I've also since covered up. So I have two things that I permanently put on my body that I had to put something else over the top of. So
That's next level.
yeah, fucking, I was not a smart person. I'm still not smart, but you know.
Stop it.
I make some pretty dumb choices.
I would like to meet somebody who fucking doesn't, legitimately.
Oh, I completely agree. I'm not saying that I'm, the
The exception.
yes, thank you. Everyone does dumb shit. It's just some of us will admit it, some of us won't. I just went one step further and I was like, I'm going to ink this dumb idea on my body to then later have to get on. And if you're listening and you've never done it before, covering up a tattoo hurts way worse than the initial tattoo.
Does it really?
It does, because a lot of times there's scar tissue and shit that builds, and then they just go over the top of it. So, I mean, keep in mind when you get tattooed, what they're doing is needling ink to the lowest layer of your skin.
Sure, yeah.
So there's generally trauma that is formed. So when you go over the top of that, it's not pleasant. a lot of times,
I do. I have
on
a
a
lot
lot
more
of
tattoos now.
what's that?
I said I have a lot more tattoos now since the first time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if this happens to you, but a lot of times if I get itchy or something, like some of the line work will raise.
Yeah, mine too.
So it's like if my stomach, which is my taco home, I like to call it, gets really itchy, then the old tattoo will raise up through what was covered up. Not like
Ah,
super
yeah.
thick and whatever, but it's like you can still see it. You can still see it's there.
What did
Yeah.
you cover? What did you cover it with?
I there's a scene of our first two bunnies that we owned as zombies eating carrots and shit. Hang on, I'll show you because we're on camera.
Yeah. Oh my god! They're the red eyes. Oh my
This is super
god!
creepy to do. Yeah. And then one of my dogs is a wizard in the middle, casting a lightning spell out of his paw.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah, I have crazy fucking ideas, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's get that tattooed on me.
Oh my god. I remember months and months ago when you had gotten a tattoo with the ashes.
Mhm. I have every pet that we've ever had that has passed away that have the ashes of tattooed on me.
Yeah, but it was the more recent one. And
Narrow that down.
oh
We
gosh.
had wait, I'm just kidding. We had 3 go since the pandemic, so
That's so fucking sad, Matt. I'm
I
sorry.
mean,
What
comes
were
to the
the
territory.
names?
Dieter, he was our wiener dog. He's on my leg.
Mhm.
Sebastian, he's
Mhm.
on my thigh.
Mhm.
He's the little Sebastian from Parks and Rec, and then Officer Ali to Booger is the cop.
Booger. It was
Booger,
Booger.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I'd lift my leg up and I'm gonna hurt myself.
Yeah. But I remember you and then you had gotten random tattoos and I was like, "See, you're a tattoo collector."
Mhm.
Like
Yep.
and that like even if I have like my goal is 2 full sleeves on my arms and then my thighs done and that's pretty much like the extent of what I want to do, but I would never consider myself a collector cuz I'm so fucking selective and picky just like games. But there are people who are just like I walk in and I'm like, "Just fucking put a pizza on me." And I would be like, "I
I
can't
have a
do
piece of pizza
it."
on me. Well, and a lot of times it's like
I'm
Erica
not
sent me
judging you for
one.
the reg for
No,
the
I
you
know,
know
I
I'm
know you're
not.
not. Not at all. But like Eric texted me, and it was a picture of Flanders. And it was a tattoo someone had got, and he's giving the finger, and it says like, "If you don't like me at my diddliest, you don't deserve me at my doodliest." And I sent it to my tattoo artist. I said, "We're doing this next," and he's like, "Fuck yeah."
Did you do it?
Not yet. I haven't. So thankfully, I love Pete, and we're very good friends. He was at my wedding, which was awesome. I introduced my mom to my tattoo artist. That was petrifying to her. But he will book guest spots closer to me because he's down by Milwaukee and I'm
Okay.
closer to Green Bay. So
Mhm.
he'll book guest spots, and then I'm just like, he gives my wife and I one full day, and I was just like, let's see what we're gonna do, and I'll send him a bunch of shit, and we'll just pick and go.
That's
So it was like the
amazing.
last time I saw him, I sent him like 4 things, and we did 3. So I was like, cool, we'll do the next one the next time I see you. And it's like, I don't want to be like, I just want to be tattooed, but that's what it's kind of boiled down to is like, I'm out of ideas.
Yeah.
There are areas that I want covered, and we're working on it. So here
Mhm.
we are.
No, I love it. I wish I had the lady balls to do that. Just be like, I want a fucking pizza, you know. But I'm just it took me a year to find the tattoo artist to do my Fern and Moth from The Last of Us
Right.
Part 2.
Mhm.
So I know know thyself.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no. I would fucking. At one point, I wanted. It's called a. Fuck. I think it's called a Russian suicide sword.
Oh shit.
And the idea is it's a Russian prison tattoo that is like when you get it, it proves it says that you're faithful.
Mm.
So it's like you'll fucking die for your friends. So I thought about doing that, and I ended up just getting a fucking big ass bald eagle across my back instead. And it was like I took the concept of the traditional like American bald eagle holding the fucking branches and the arrows. It's like, let's make it a little more me. So it's holding a machete and a chainsaw.
Holy shit.
And then the rest is all like horror movie stuff. So I have like Jason and Freddy and Captain Spaulding and Chucky and the little dude from Saw,
Mhm.
the Jigsaw puppet on a bike,
Oh my
and
god.
like the bullet. Yeah, my 2/3 of my back are all horror stuff, but it's granted, what are we here for? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
one time by my parents, I mean my dad, who's Catholic. He was over, and I was wearing shorts and a sleeveless shirt because it was the middle of summer, and he goes, "Were you trying to be a billboard?" And I was just like, "You say this
Dad.
shit to your other son too?" He was, well, I would. I'm like, but you didn't. But I also was like, these things mean something to me.
Yeah.
Regardless of what, it means something. It's like, for lack of a better term, my sister-in-law. Don't care for her, but I have the Simpsons tattooed on my chest. And she said, quote, what kind of a freak gets the Simpsons tattooed on their chest? I said, well, you don't know why it's there.
Yeah.
All through my life, the Simpsons were a constant source of joy. So that's why I did it, because it's fucking awesome. Simpsons are great, So it's like,
Yeah.
fuck you. Who gives a shit, to your like, I had to find the right artist, I had to find the right piece. And it's like, I got to a point where it's just like, dude, this stuff brings me joy, or this means something to me. Fuck it, let's do it, because
Yeah.
you don't live forever.
Yes. And yeah. That I think that's the one thing, and it happens to all of us, right? When we get older,
Mhm.
we're facing, not that I'm old, but I'm certainly older, and that question
Right.
of mortality, and I just remember wanting, even as a 20-year-old, I was like, "Oh, let's go and get a fucking sleeve. Let's do this, let's do that." And I'm glad obviously that didn't happen, because now I have the tattoos that I really want,
Mhm.
but it's just one of those things where I'm like, if you want to fucking do it, just go do it.
Yep. There was I'm pretty sure he was a coke dealer also, but a tattoo artist that made a very good statement to me, and he just said, think before you ink.
Mhm.
And it's like, you don't need to have the best idea, but just like make sure what you're doing you really want to do. And that pertains to
Yeah.
like people getting names tattooed and shit like that. But
Mhm.
I'm very much like, dude, if you want to get a fucking tattooed on you, get it fucking tattooed on you.
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you why, everything it's just like a milestone of something. So it's like, I have a lot of
Yeah.
my band logos tattooed on me, my band pieces, because those were a very big part of my life.
Mhm.
The first band that I ever really quote unquote played in, that did something or was the meaningful to me, is of a huge piece of, because that led to where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So fucking who gives a shit? I wasn't
I know.
kidding. I have a piece of pizza that says True Love tattooed on my leg because I thought it was funny, and I'm wearing a shirt right now underneath this very, well, not very offensive, but this offensive sweatshirt that's it says pizza or die. And on the back it has a big Grim Reaper, and this is pizza till I die. And yeah,
Oh, you're
fucking I
making
love
me want
pizza.
pizza.
I know I'm gonna eat some after this. But we should probably do a part 2 to this.
Sure.
Mostly because Zencaster is gonna stop me from the ability of talking too much more, and we're getting close to it.
Sure.
But
I'm up for it.
cool.
Did we do good? Did I do good? I
I
always
thought you did great.
All right.
I was yes, we're friends, but it's like going into a formal setting to have a
Yeah.
conversation is always a
Sure.
little tedious, a little, nerve-wracking. So that
Yeah.
was great. The dump truck full of beer that I drank helped. So I apologize if I rambled or slurred or any of that, but
No,
you know
you
what you
didn't.
sign up for when you listen to this podcast. So before I let you do all your plugs, I know you don't want to do it. I'm going to force you to do it because
Fair.
promotion. So
Sure.
plug away, friend.
If you would like to hear a whole lot about The Last of Us, you can go over to Twitter and follow TLOU podcast. That covers Wayfaring Strangers and The Last Cast by yours truly, the host of yours truly. And if you need a little bit more, you can go to Instagram and follow TLOU podcasts for all of the podcast stuff. For me personally, I am literally everywhere on the internet as Jaded Vader. And beyond that, I got nothing else. Twitch, Jaded Vader.
I was just going to say, yeah, your
Yeah.
Twitch is Jade Debater also.
Yeah,
So we'll have to find more things to talk about
for sure.
in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. Just let me know when.
Yes, and then we'll find horror games to play because then we can stream those.
Yes.
I'd have to figure out how to make my Xbox stream. Not difficult. I just have to take the time to do it, which,
Mm-hmm.
if you know me. But perfect. Well, Jack Attack, thank you very much. It's been awesome.
Yes,
Like
it
I said,
has.
we will certainly do this again. Maybe earlier in the day with more beer, and then we'll make it longer.
Yes.
More
That's what she said.
rambling, more shit talking. Hey yo. But I do sincerely appreciate everything, and Erica, have fun editing this one.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks,
See ya.
Matt.